Music by D-U-D-E.
They told me follow my heart. Who would have thought that it'll lead straight to you? 'Cause I never known. I've been dreaming of a fairy tale love, imperfection that I never give up.
All right. I'd like to welcome y'all once again to the newest podcast that we have on Social Ghost Media Network, Who I Love, I Don't Discuss. And the person you see before you, she's very near and dear to me. And we have been kicking it for a minute. This is my girl. Like I say, this she's like a sister. She's family. She, you know what it is. I'd like to introduce y'all to Miss Morgan Crowell. Y'all know Morgan. Morgan was the first co-host of Before the Vision. She's still a part of Before the Vision, but she don't like to come to work. So, I mean, look, I don't know what to say about that. But, hey, welcome, Morgan. How are you?
I'm doing good. I hope everyone else is doing good today, too.
Okay, so look, you know why you're here. And, we just want to talk about, we want to give people who have maybe not experienced marriage and people who have experienced marriage a platform to discuss their thoughts about it. And right now you're part of the series, which is called Why Did I Get Married? The Female Perspective. So, all right, so we have you here and we've talked, I know you've been married before. So we want to hear, your thoughts. So in your life, when did you feel or even think about marriage being an option for you in your life?
I mean, that could be a simple question or a big question. I mean, I think just as a woman, we're kind of taught that that's what you're supposed to do, grow up, get married, have a career, have some kids, that whole thing. But in reality, it wasn't until my 30s that I started realizing that, like when you're in your 20s, life is fun. You're just kind of blowing and going. You don't take things seriously. And then you hit your 30s and you're like, okay, life is kind of serious now. Like, I want to just be with one person. I do not want to date anymore. I don't want to go out anymore. I just want to be at home and do the whole marriage thing, basically, So for me, it was really my 30s that triggered me to go, okay, I'm serious now.
Okay.
That's how it was for me.
So in your life experiences, were you reared where you were raised by, your mom and dad being married, and you never really, I know you said in your 30s, you really kind of thought about it a little bit more. Did that give you a perspective or even a thought about being married? It's like, well, look, I see my parents, this is something that I feel like I want to do in my future, or it was just like, that's mom and dad,
Well, watching my grandparents get old together, that does make you think about when you're old. And I've talked to my friends about this because I've asked them, why do you want to get married? Because I just want to know if we have the same things in our head. Yeah. And they've all pretty much said like, well, when I'm old, I don't want to just be alone, that kind of thing. My parents are divorced and I saw both of them remarry like later in life. So it did show me that like you can easily find the love of your life later. It can happen anytime. So I guess I've seen both worlds. I've seen traditional old school grandparents, and then I've seen my divorced parents remarry. So I've kind of seen it all, I guess.
So did that give you like, did they kind of show you the way it's supposed to be, or it kind of gave you like, okay, well, I kind of see what I'm going to do or what I want to do?
Well, I guess having divorced parents, what that taught me was you really need to know who you are truly before you pick a partner, because if you really don't know who your core self is, I know we all change and that's fine. You can grow and change, but your core self is what I'm talking about. If you don't have that or know that before you choose your partner, you could end up growing in totally separate directions. I think that's what happened with my parents. They were two totally different people and they didn't find out until they were already 2 kids in and married. So you really got to know who you are first to be able to pick who you're going to pick for your life. Or that's how I see it. And I'm 31. I feel like I definitely know who I am. So I do feel like I'm ready to pick my forever person.
Okay. So, you've been married before, and how many experiences have you had with being married? Have you been married once?
So, it was more like a common law marriage. So I kind of feel like I've been married a couple of times, because when you're like living together and your lives are together and you have all these things tangled, it's like common law marriage.
Okay.
So I kind of feel like I did it once when I was 18 for 4 years. And then I have, had some other relationships that were kind of like marriage as well. That's what I consider in this context.
Okay, and you mentioned being married at 18. Yeah. So I mean, fresh out of high school, or was that the thing to do? Like, what prompted you to make that decision so young?
For me, I met him when I was 15. We were always together. It was like that. It was like high school sweetheart situation. And then when we turned like 18, 19, it was like we're already like together. Like, it just was kind of natural.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't legally marry him for a reason.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I know you mentioned it. Would that be too much, for this arena to talk, to really ask that question about you didn't legally marry him for a reason?
That is all with every guy that I said I was common law married with. There's a reason we weren't legally married, and that boils down to trust. Okay. There was something there that I was not sold on. If I was sold on this person and the relationship, we would have been legally married. So obviously I wasn't 100% trusting that person.
Okay. So trust is a really big deal. I know for any relationship, trust is a really big deal. So did your expectations of marriage prior to going in, and I'm going to already put trust as one of the prerequisites of actually being married. Was there any other expectations you may have had that like, look, I'll marry you, but this is what I require or what I'm going to need?
Mm-hmm. I can tell you how I feel now a lot better than how I felt back then. So now I've been through a lot. I've learned a lot, even about myself. And I think I know what my number one is. Number one is peace. When I was younger, I thought number one was love.
Okay.
And then I found out through my life that love is not number one. That is not actually all you need for a relationship. And then I learned that trust is actually number two. So peace is number one. Okay. If I can't have peace with that person, then it's just not going to work. Okay. I have to have peace, number one, top priority. Okay. Number two is trust. Okay. I can love you with my whole heart, but if I don't trust you, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So that's why love isn't number one for me. Trust is number two, and then love. And love is a kind of a broad spectrum here. Is. Because I also want to feel like I'm best friends with my spouse. Like, if we're not best friends, why are we doing life together? Okay. So that falls under the category of love for me. Like, do we actually like each other? Yeah. Or are we just together situation? So I like to feel like we're best friends. Those are kind of like my core needs if I had to list them out.
Okay. So, I'm going back to being married at 18.
Okay.
Was your perspective the same
No.
as it is now?
No, because when I was 18, I thought love was all it took. But love doesn't pay the bills, and love isn't trust. And it's just not all you need. So that was something I learned from that. You can both love each other, but that still doesn't mean it's going to work.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I learned a lot from that one.
Okay. So, with your experience and with the marriage experience, you're not a parent, correct?
I'm not.
So was that even taken in consideration when I got married? Like, I have plans to have this many kids, and is that something you look at, for your prior partners and even for a potential partner in the future?
When I was in my 20s, I was definitely not trying to have kids. It doesn't matter who I met or dated. We weren't having kids now. If we're still together in our 30s, cool. But like now, absolutely not. So kids were never on the table with me. And I went through a period of time where I wasn't going to have kids at all.
Okay.
And then, of course, you get older. Like I said, you get older, you start hitting your 30s. You realize your grandparents are getting older, and you kind of realize, I need to add more people to my family. And so that's kind of, like I said, in my 30s, I kind of changed my perspective on things, and kids was one of them.
Okay, so for a potential partner, and I know you said it has changed now, but with that, and at that time, that was a deal breaker?
It's not that. It's just like, you can want that, but it's not happening anytime soon.
Gotcha.
That's how I was through my whole 20s. It would be like, that's cool, that's great, but just not now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your partner from the past, if that person would have been open to adopting, would that have been a different situation?
That would be great. That would be better.
Okay. I got you. And I
I'm
understand,
a very weird kind of woman, but like not having to be pregnant would be cool. So adoption would be fine.
Okay. Okay. So it's not really an issue of having kids, actually birthing kids at the time. Not ready to actually.
I mean, birth doesn't sound like just a good time. So it's like, and raising kids is hard. I have 2 companies. Like, I'm just such a busy woman. I don't see how I could have time for that. Okay. That's why, like, if I don't have a ring on my finger, it's just not a thought in my mind. Until I'm married, I will not even consider or even think of a baby.
And look, I'm happy you
I can't do it alone.
I got you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy you actually mentioned that, because I want to ask you about that ring. What is that ring? How much does a ring matter to you? What does that symbolize to you?
Everything, but the cost means nothing to me. I've told guys in the past, don't spend all your bread on that, because my dream ring is like under $1,000. Like, right. Don't go crazy with it. I'm not that kind of girl. I'm like not very materialistic.
Yeah. So,
yeah. It's one of those, like, you need to go ask my sister what I want.
Okay. All right.
She knows what I want, and it's not expensive.
I got you.
Yeah, I'm not big on that.
And I think, like, and like I said, this is from the female perspective. I think from a male perspective, I think that a prospective man wants to be able to provide that dream, to make that woman. I think, like, as a man, we all try to strive, to make sure that we fulfill that for our potential spouses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So, we kind of talked about significance of the ring. So now what I want to talk about with you is, in your experience with being married and now not being married, what part did you play in it? Do you feel like, some of the things that you may have been flawed with, or, things like, well, you know what, I have to self-reflect and say, this is what I could have done better?
Mm-hmm. So during my last little common law marriage situation, I grew so much in that relationship. I was always finding out flaws about myself. But the thing about me is, I'm going to be aware of it and I'm going to fix it. And this shouldn't keep being an issue, right?
Right.
So I feel like, yes, I learned a lot about myself through that relationship, for sure.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, you're one of my dear friends, and, we kind of, we've talked often. And within the professions that you have, and for those that are tuning in, those that are watching, you've actually been able to experience other people's experiences within this, and just really talking about from what you've learned from hearing from women.
Okay.
How does that make you feel? And did you relate to that? Or are you like, wow, man, this may be something like, like, what do you think about that?
That's a good question, because it kind of like broadens the scope here. So like, I do divorces for a living, so all day long I'm on the phone with clients, and of course I'm hearing all their stories. So I literally hear divorce stories all day long for a living. So like, as a society, there is a major shift going on, and it's very obvious. Like my grandparents, for example, women didn't typically work. It could be a one income household and it could function. Relationships were different back then, but now things are different. You have to have two people working. Women are working a lot. They're not having as many kids. And I just think in general, we're all having these very different experiences in marriage. And it's new because, like I said, our grandparents, they weren't really like that. Our parents kind of were, but we're all out here like, what does marriage look like in 2025? It's really not traditional anymore. I know some guys do pay all the bills and the woman stays at home and takes care of kids. That is fine. But for most people, they both have to work. So the roles are different now, and I think no one knows what to expect. With a lot of women I've talked to, I think they're leaving the marriages because they feel like they're a single mom, even though they're married. I hear that term come up so much with my work. They're like, I've been a single mom for 10 years. I might as well just be single. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm hearing, like as a view of society type situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And once again, y'all will see this young lady again, because we're in this series, we're going to actually bring her back and actually have, ask and maybe get some Q&A. So y'all get time to ask questions, and maybe we can get her to sit down and answer a couple of questions. Look, we can't do too much because there's a consultation fee that may come along with this, y'all. So we can't try to get, all the tea. We got to pay. People got bills to pay. So, we don't want to sit here and try to get everything. But, hopefully we have some Q&A for to, sit and talk about, if you want to maybe go into that. So my last question before we get you out of here, Ms. Crowell, do you think that social media has played a major part in marriage, and why?
Wow, that is such a big one. Absolutely. Okay. So we're all very aware that like dating is different now than it was for our grandparents. Our grandparents either met their spouse at school or work or the grocery store. They didn't have an app that could help them meet 30 people in one day. Right. Okay. So that's a big thing, the accessibility to new people all the time. But with my experience, the bigger issue is something that I'm seeing a lot with men and women is kind of this fantasizing of reality. So when you see the person on social media, you're probably seeing an edited picture. You're only seeing the good. And I think people build up these kind of like fantasies about that person in their head. And they kind of don't really have an all the way grip on reality. I feel like guys from the internet have kind of been that way with me. I've seen other people in my life do it. Me personally, I'm not going to know what we really are until we are really, really in person. I really try to live in reality. But I think a lot of people have these like very kind of fake online relationships, and they really, and I'm like, you've never met them, or you've met them like once, and it's just a very odd phenomenon that I don't feel like I partake in or understand, but I see it happen a lot. And of course that leads to a lot of cheating in marriages and stuff. So it's just a complex thing, but as a society, we're going to have to deal with it. It's not going to go away. And that's where trust comes in. You got to trust your partner. Okay.
And look, we're going out here on this one. Love at first sight. Do you think the meaning of love at first sight has changed from what you referenced, our grandparents' experience, to what we experience today?
I don't think love at first sight has changed, but I don't believe in love at first sight.
Okay.
I think that you can love someone's vibe or love the way they look, but I know now with experience that real true love, you really don't find out that you have it until like maybe a year in. Because let's be honest, the first year is the honeymoon phase. It's kind of the lust phase. You have the endorphins. But eventually, when that kind of fades off, what are you really left with? And that's how you know it's real, true love, because you're still left with something amazing, even though your honeymoon phase is over. So most relationships don't make it past that phase, because as soon as the hormones and the lust and honeymoon wears off, they're like, I don't want to do this. So love for me it's just not at first sight. But I can love your vibe and then go from there.
Yeah. Well, look, we appreciate you. Like, for everyone that's listening and has watched this show, please share, like and share.
Please share your comments, any ideas or thoughts you have. Please tell us everything that you're thinking about what we talked about.
Right. And look, before we get you out of here as well, for reference points for people who may be in the process of maybe divorcing or something, how can they reach you?
My name, as you see on the screen, Morgan Crowell. I am a social goat, so you can find me through social goats. You can always reach out to me. We can do a consultation, and I will, kind of ease you through that difficult time for sure.
Look, we're about to get out of here. Once again, I appreciate you. And like, for those y'all, this is to be continued with this young lady, because we got to bring her in so we can have some Q&A with her for those who are maybe in that process. And, there's a point of no return. Or, we will bring Morgan back. And once again, I appreciate you, sister. I love you. And look, we go catch y'all next time. We go, holla!